Hey, what's going on, everybody? Okay, this is the long-awaited episode. Several people have asked me to make this. In this episode, I am talking about the short attention span myth. And really what we're going to start talking about is the difference between boring content and interesting content, okay? But the short attention span myth, I hope this is going to be a valuable episode, only because when I start to talk about this stuff, I just get like super irritated. This is like my sort of like my brand fight, okay? It's been the fight across my entire career against the short attention span myth. It's gotten to the point where I like seriously hate Microsoft Canada. Like, you guys suck. Hate you for ever creating that attention span white paper, right? Where it compared a human being to a goldfish. And yes, it was a white paper done by the marketing department of Microsoft Canada. That's really where all this stuff started happening, when everybody started getting all jazzed up about, oh, our attention spans are getting shorter. It was from something that a marketing department did, right? It's not a peer-reviewed scientific study, okay? It doesn't really have any, like, tremendous research base on it, okay? It's just a white paper that a marketing department made. I was walking a client through a video, and as I'm walking them through the stipulations of the video, I'm explaining to them, like, hey, here's the message. Like, I'm just going through the first page of the brief, not even through the first page of the brief. And like, I think it's like the third item is like, hey, here's the length of the deliverable. And it's like 4 minutes long. They cut me off after I say 4 minutes. And they're like, can't be 4 minutes. Gotta be 2.5 minutes. What? People, they got shorter attention spans. No one's going to sit for 4 minutes. It's got to be 2.5. We haven't even started talking about like the messaging, why it's 4 minutes, why it needs to be 4 minutes long, right? Like, haven't even started touching on that. But it can't be 4 minutes because it has to be 2.5 minutes because of short attention spans. That's like the silliest argument. Why did you stop at 2.5 minutes? Why not 15 seconds? Because of short attention spans. Who's going to sit with that logic? Who's going to sit for 2.5 minutes when we can do it in 15 seconds? Why would you sit for 15 seconds when we should do it in 3? In fact, let's just make it a photo with 2-word sentence on it, and that's going to work. Do you understand? Like, the length of the message does not dictate the success of the message. The content of the message actually dictates the length of the message. Like, what you're actually trying to get across is going to heavily influence the overall time it takes to communicate that information, okay? If you want to communicate a lot of stuff, it's going to take a lot of time to communicate those lot of things, right? Does that make sense? Like, we're not goldfish. People will sit down and binge watch an entire series on Netflix or Amazon Prime or wherever. They'll just binge watch an entire series over a weekend. You're talking like tens of hours, okay? Like what? Your average series is anywhere from 8 to 10 episodes, all right? And that's if it's like one of these shorter series. We're not even talking about these long extended ones, okay? And each episode is somewhere around an hour long. You're looking at 8 to 10 hours. That's a pretty long attention span to sit for 8 hours continuously throughout an entire weekend. So what are we actually arguing against, right? Why would someone devote that much time? It doesn't look to me as if my attention span is short. It looks to me like you're trying to remove responsibility for the quality of your content by blaming your audience's attention instead of making what you create more interesting. That's why people like this. People love to talk about short attention spans and hide inside of short attention spans because what we're doing is deflecting responsibility. We're putting the responsibility of the effectiveness of our content and our message on the audience. Get to what is that? When you remove blame from yourself, You get to blame the audience. It's real easy to blame an audience's short attention span for our bad content. Then it doesn't matter how short you make your content if it's poorly executed. No one is ever going to pay attention to it, even if it is just literally little blips, like little photos with a single word thing. Good luck getting your value proposition across, right? Good luck landing with your audience and really connecting with them. I mean, if it's a really great poster, right? If it's well designed, if it's a great photo, right? That's beyond the point, okay? What I mean is that we love the idea of blaming our audience's short attention spans, and we're afraid of the short attention spans because of what it actually is communicating. And what it actually is communicating is the real truth of the situation. The truth of the situation is there is a lot of competition out there for our audience's attention. The choices, the amount of choices that they have, the amount of content that they're saturated with on a day-to-day basis is overwhelming. Therefore, they get to be highly selective about what they pay attention to. That's the situation. The situation is the selectivity and the competition of content out there for your audience's attention, not how short their span of attention time is. It's not like we're walking around with a ticking time clock, right? We're like, oh, I've started it. Now I've only got 5 seconds, and now I've lost my attention span, and I've got to restart it. We're not Dory from Finding Nemo, okay? Like, we can pay attention just fine. Can you capture our attention? Do you know how to do that? And that's what we really need to focus on. Because if you can start to shift out of, I have to compete against my audience's short attention span, and really start to change your perspective into, I have to now win their attention, capture it, get them engaged by adding value and making my stuff interesting instead of boring. Well, now you're focused on solving the problem properly. This isn't a problem about a ticking time clock where you have 5 seconds to get your message across. This is the problem of boring versus interesting. Context is everything here, okay? Like, the effectiveness of the content that you're going to create depends completely on the context, all right? And honestly, it's the context of when our audience is receiving our message that determines how we shape something that is interesting, or what type of ticking time clock we're actually working with. If you're looking at a website, okay, there's enough data out there to show that someone does only spend, like, I think it's less than 5 seconds on a website, and it takes them that long to determine whether or not they're going to stay or they're going to go, okay? That does not communicate a short attention span. What that communicates is how quickly we're making a snap judgment of, is this worth my time or not? That's the judgment. It's not like this given, oh, you got 5 seconds and then I'm stupid, right? What we have to do within that context, say on a web page, is like, be really obvious, connect with them really quickly, okay? There is a specific context in which someone is opening up your website, and there's a specific frame of mind that they're in as they're evaluating your website. And you have to be mindful of this so you can create something that is relevant and meaningful and enticing to them, right? So for instance, if we were just thinking about websites for a second, the way in which you're interacting with a website is completely different than the way in which you're interacting on Instagram. On Instagram, I'm in judge mode. What I'm doing is I'm now a talent show judge. I'm scrolling through my feed, and I'm judging the worth of the posts, right? It's like, that was valuable, liked it. This was valuable, liked it. Not valuable, pass it up. Right? Like, that's what I'm doing. It's like you're almost becoming your own sort of talent show judge as you're on Instagram, you're looking for something to like fascinate you or inspire you or encourage you. Okay? That's a completely different mindset than when you're looking at a website. When I'm searching on websites, I'm in some sort of a shop mode. Okay? I'm trying to make like really fast, and I'm going fast because there's a lot of search results that I'm trying to get through. So I'm jumping like really quickly to each of these links because I'm skimming and I'm shopping. And I'm either shopping, literally shopping for, say, a vendor or something on that website, or I'm shopping for information. I'm trying to find really quickly, does this have the information I need? Is this article full of the information that I'm looking for? Your mindset and how you're interacting with that web page now is you're skimming. You don't even read stuff. You're kind of just bouncing around to try to see the lay of the land. Like, is this even helpful? Is this even worth it? And you can really quickly determine a worthless article versus a valuable article, because the worthless one is too short and it's too fluffy and it doesn't help me solve my problem. The valuable one is actually the one that has a lot of words, is very in-depth, has a lot of information, and I now get an understanding of, oh, this is actually going to take a little bit more time for me to invest in. Let me sit down and I can generally get a sense of, okay, I think this has the depth of what I'm looking for. Now let me glean from it what I need to glean from it. And what I just explained is a snap decision where I immediately measured one thing as completely worthless and not my time, and therefore I left because it was a joke, right? And I'm looking for something of higher quality that can actually fulfill my needs. That's what we're doing. Your time is highly valuable, okay? So you want to make sure that if you're going to spend your time, that you don't want to waste your time. And you don't want to waste your time on things that are meaningless and not rewarding you for your attention. You have a moral obligation to reward your audience for their attention. It's an economic exchange. And if you understand that it's literally an economic exchange, an audience member is investing their time, which it's investing their life, like a moment of their life. That's what we mean by their attention, in order to receive value from your content. Okay? So you have a moral obligation to make your stuff valuable to them, and that is of interest to them. It's a really empty, like, popcorn thing to just say, just add value. What do we mean? What is valuable? How do we start to craft something that is valuable? Well, like I said, you have to understand the context in which they are consuming that information, how their mind is primed, what they're expecting, right? So it's got to meet and surprise their expectations in a good way, okay? But then also you'll start to understand that there's a continuum between entertainment and education that content needs to sort of like move through as your audience moves through your funnel and through your organization towards brand advocacy, okay? Like at the top of the funnel, right? When people are starting to just get to know your organization versus at the very bottom of the funnel when someone's trying to actually become a customer, buy something, okay? That's where you see the strongest difference between these two poles. Because at the top of the funnel, your content needs to be weighted way more towards the entertainment side, because you're trying to put forth a friendly face. So essentially, like you think about your fishing, at the top of the funnel stuff is when you're trying to just like get your flashy lure out there. You're trying to catch their eye. You're trying to entertain them. You're trying to be like, hey, this is cool looking. Come check this out. Like that's what your content is doing up at the top of the funnel, because people don't quite understand who you are and what you're about. So you're trying to just really weight your stuff more towards entertainment so you can capture their attention, give them something that's highly interesting and highly rewarding, and then start to pull them into your funnel, your ecosystem or whatever. But when they're further down the funnel, when they're in decision mode, and now they're trying to literally decide like whether or not you're going to be the best fit for them, no one, and what I'm saying is like, hold on, let me back up. When you're at that top of the funnel part, storytelling and engaging storytelling is extremely effective. Okay? It's really effective because it's a story. Like, what's more entertaining than a story? I don't know. Like, so you want to use stories closer to the top of the funnel and into the middle of the funnel because they're very engaging and emotionally engaging. They're entertaining, and they're also a way to kind of like slip your message in while the person is having an enjoyable experience. Okay, so they're able to both be entertained and receive information. Like I said, it's a continuum. It's not binary. Okay, you're always giving them both. But when they're down at the bottom of the funnel, you actually don't want to tell stories down there because that's a waste of my time. If I'm like, okay, I'm ready to buy from you. All right, well, let's do this. Okay, so before we get started, let me tell you about Jill and what Jill was going through when she was in your shoes at this moment. It's like, no, I don't care about Jill. I want you to know what package I'm going to select. That's great. Jill was in the same place as you when she was selecting her package too. Shut up about Jill. I want to select the package. Just let me know what's in the package, right? Like, you don't want to tell a story down at the bottom of the funnel. People just want facts and figures when they get down there because now they're really trying to make a decision, okay? Like, you've already established that trust bridge. You've already created that emotional connection. There's no need to continue to feel as if you need to keep doing that. There's a place for stories and there's a place not for stories, right? You're not always telling stories, okay? But the journey your customer is going through, that is always a story for them. You have to map that journey, map that story out so you understand how they're thinking, what they're expecting, so you can provide to them what they need at the moment they need it. And so you're moving through this continuum. So if you're trying to figure out how to add value, you have to understand, like, what platform is this content going to be experienced on? Like, what stage of the funnel is my audience experiencing this content, and what do they need to know at this stage, right? Now, even if it's facts and figures and you're down near the bottom of the funnel, you still want it to be entertaining. You don't want it to be so dry and boring like a contract, right? Where it's just like, ow, hurts your head to read it, right? You don't want you don't want to necessarily slam people with legalese until they're actually at that contract stage, right? But what I'm saying is that, like, keep this experience fun throughout, but you're just weighting it on different levels of the scale. And so it's kind of like at the top of the funnel, it's more towards entertainment. At the middle of the funnel, it's kind of in the middle of the continuum. And at the bottom of the funnel, it's more towards information. Time feels different based on the context of the situation in which we're experiencing time. There's not like it's not a set like measurement. We think it's a set measurement, okay? Like our assumption is it is a qualitative set measurement like inches and feet, okay? But our experience shows that that's not true, right? That time is experienced differently based on the condition of that experience, okay? And a lot of that condition is dictated by our emotional engagement, okay? If you're bored, time seems to take forever. If you're scared or freaked out, right, time seems to take even longer because now time totally slows down because your brain is working so daggum fast that you're able to process things in a different way, and like that allows you to kind of like escape that situation, right? Act more quickly, give you more, in a sense, it gives you more time to react and navigate those types of situations. But if you're really hyper-focused, if you're extremely engaged in what you're doing, time seems to go by very quickly, and time seems to not even exist at all. Like, when I get focused on something, when I get like completely immersed and absorbed in what I'm doing, time no longer matters because I'm so interested and I'm so focused on what I'm doing that becomes the only thing that matters in that moment. And hours can go by. I can skip meals when I'm in this stage and not even notice, right? And hours and hours can go by, but it feels like I was only there for like 30 minutes. Okay? This is what I mean. And so therefore, your goal needs to be to create that focus, that level of emotional engagement, and get your audience absorbed in what you're doing, right? And that is dictated not on the amount of time that something takes. That's dictated by how you execute it. I don't even have enough time to like explain to you how to execute something that well, right? Like start studying storytelling because stories are a great way of getting that emotional engagement, right? Like what I'm talking about now is I'm talking about how aesthetics impacts us, how storytelling impacts us, how something looks and feels and the tone. This is why it's really important to design your content specifically for your target audience. So that way it's enjoyable to them, like they are welcoming it in. It's a welcomed experience for them. If you've got your audience welcoming the experience of your content, you've made it. You don't have to worry about attention spans anymore. You don't even have to worry about competing with other people anymore because they're welcoming your content. That's the goal. The goal is to get them to welcome you into their door, not to get them to slam the door in your face because you're not honoring the agreement being I am trading my life for your content, so you daggum better well reward me for the life I'm giving you. Hope this was helpful. As always, if you guys have any follow-up questions, you can reach me at McNabbStorytelling.com or on Twitter and Instagram at Storytelligent. And if you're liking this podcast, would love to receive a rating and review. I will see you in the next one. Take care.